Yeah. Yo. What up? What up? What's happening, world? What is going on with y'all, man? B March Boxing, I'm back at it, man. Man, summertime's basically over. Summertime's over, y'all. Kids went back to school on Tuesday yesterday, and here we are. Yeah, I know it's end of August, but if y'all be outside like I do after 10:30 p.m. at night on the East Coast, you already know, man, summer's over. You gotta be hooded up and then your sweatpants. Cause it's getting chilly these evenings, you know what I mean? We talking about in the mid 60s. But that's neither here nor there. B March Boxing, man, I'm back at it with another boxing video. Give y'all another historical video. You know how I do. Fights we didn't get to see. Yes indeed, I'm back at it, man. I know y'all love these giants. Best believe, cause you know what? You know what? I'm gonna keep that to myself. But I know y'all love these giants and I'm back at it. I love doing them too, you know what I mean? Yes, indeed. So here we are, man. We're going to talk about a fight that could have happened in 2009 between two undefeated fighters. We talking about a fight at light heavyweight. This would be for actually the lineal for all the marbles. The lineal light heavyweight championship, Ring Magazine championship, um, what you call it? And all the straps basically, you know what I mean? Well, not all of them, but most of them, you know what I'm saying? You check it. So we're going to take you back to a fight that should have happened sometime in probably 2009. A fight between undefeated fighter Joe Calzaghe out of Wales, the Italian dragon, the pride of Wales, versus Bad News Chad Dawson from Connecticut. You know what I mean? Undefeated fighter. Now, this, like I said, was a fight we would have liked to see possibly around 2009 at some point, right? Because I believe Joe Calzaghe's last fight was in 2008, in November of 2008. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to give this sometime, let's say spring of 2009. Fight we didn't get to see, Chad Dawson versus Joe Calzaghe. You know what I mean? Now, let's talk about how this fight could have happened, how they would have possibly got there. Uh, Joe Calzaghe had fought his whole career over there in Europe, you know what I mean, in Wales or England, you know what I'm saying. And he was a star. He fought in Germany, Scotland. He fought in Europe, basically. Denmark when he fought, I don't know if he fought Mikhail Kessler there. But he basically fought in Europe, England, you know what I mean, or Wales. Okay, so he was an undefeated fighter. He came to America with his record. I believe his record was like 44-0 when he came to the United States for the first time. And he fought two American legends. Bernard Hopkins first, and then he fought, what you call it? What's the guy's name? Roy Jones Jr. after he fought B-Hop. All in the same year of 2008, you know what I mean? Okay, so he beat two American legends. And let's just be honest about the truth of the matter. The B-Hop fight was a good win for him. And Roy Jones is too. But Roy Jones was past it at that point, y'all. Let's keep it tall. Keep it tall with y'all, man. Roy Jones was past his prime by the time he fought the man Roy Jones. I'm sorry, Joe Calzaghe, you know what I mean? Roy Jones had at least, when he fought Calzaghe, he had at least lost to Tarver and Glenn Johnson, been knocked out a couple times, you know what I mean? You check it, man. Calzaghe made him leak in this fight too, but that's neither here nor there. Roy Jones, never forget, he did put him on his ass, but we're going to talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. B Marsh Boxing. All right, so 2008, right? 2009. 2008, Joe Calzaghe wins the Ring Magazine title, you know what I'm saying? Finishes his career with 46 wins, 32 KOs, and 0 draws. You know what I mean? You check it. So the man basically retired. He retired undefeated. You know what I mean? You got to give him undefeated. Okay? Now, with that being said, Chad Dawson's undefeated too, but he's not no old head like B-Hop. And he ain't no old head like, what you call it? Like Roy Jones, you know what I mean? The Calzaghe, the guys that Calzaghe beat, those guys, they were now past their prime. You know what I'm saying? Joe Calzaghe, like I said, is the Ring Magazine champion by beating Roy Jones and B Hop. And Chad Dawson, if I recall, he was definitely a light heavyweight champ. You know what I mean? He was calling out the man, um, Joe Calzaghe. You know what I mean? And at that point, he was definitely because he was the WBC light heavyweight champion, 175 pounds. So let's get into it. Let me tell y'all exactly what Joe Calzaghe said when the fight was on the table for the man. What you call it? For the Joe Calzaghe versus Chad Dawson. This is what he said. Quote, neither Pavlik or Dawson have done anything to warrant a fight with me. Neither of them excite me. End quote. That's what Joe Calzaghe said, okay? Never forget. That's what Joe Calzaghe said. Does this seem like a guy who is interested in fighting Chad Dawson? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Basically, I think I have some more quotes. Let me see if I have some more quotes um, regarding Calzaghe and fighting at Chad Dawson. I believe I have another quote. Let me look. Um, Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Jesus Christ. I had a nice quote. Um, uh, it was a quote from the man Joe Calzaghe. And I don't really need to find much of any quotes from the man Chad Dawson regarding this fight because he wanted all the smoke, you know what I mean? But I found the quote. Okay, this is what Joe Calzaghe said, quote, I like Chad Dawson, but he's still on his way up. I had spent the last 24 months looking for the right time to get out. The biggest thing in making the decision was whether I still had anything to prove to myself, and I haven't. At the moment, I'm really happy. My mom's relieved that I retired, and I've got a few things planned. Some things on TV, and of course, the promoting. End quote. This is Joe Calzaghe talking to the Times Magazine online. You know what I mean? Okay? So this is basically a man who's, look, man, he came to America. He got them 2 wins over 2 American boxing legends, Hall of Famers, etc. And he was like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm not going to fight this young, hungry lion in the man, Joe Calzaghe. I'm sorry, Chad Dawson, who was at least 10 years, who had the 10-year age advantage. You know what I mean? If Chad Dawson at that time was like 26 years old, at least Joe Calzaghe was no younger than, what do you call it, 36 years old. You know what I'm saying? Now, Joe Calzaghe, man, he ain't never fought no southpaw like this guy, Chad Dawson. You know what I mean? Joe Calzaghe is a southpaw himself. And those usually were his advantages when he fought fighters, you know what I mean? Coming from the southpaw stance. But he ain't never fought no southpaw like this dude, you know what I mean? That's a cold fact. He never fought no southpaw like Chad Dawson, um, what do you call it? Southpaw champion in Chad Dawson, who was also on the pound for pound list. You know what I'm saying? You check it, who was also a pound for pounder. Okay, so Joe Calzaghe, his best wins of his career, in my opinion, of course, when he beat Jeff Lacey. I believe that was the very first time I seen him fight in my life, when that fight was on Showtime back in the day. He fought Jeff Lacey. He fought guys like Mikhail Kessler. I'm saying, and those fights were also on HBO when he fought Mikhail Kessler. You know what I mean? HBO was promoting this guy, or trying to, and I thought that was a good look, putting this guy that I used to see in the magazines. Oh, he's undefeated, a pound for pounder, etc. Put him on the American stage. He ain't fighting America, of course. He fought in Cardiff, Wales, when he fought Mikhail Kessler. Um, but what you call it? Those were the first fights that I started to see him, and like I said, guys beating guys like Mikhail Kessler. These are some of the best names of his on his resume. Sakio Bika, I give him credit for Sakio Bika. You know, he fought guys like Robin Reed. That's a fight. You know, if Robin Reed, guys like what do you call him? He ain't fight Swin Oki. That was a fight we never got to see. Uh, what's his name? Omar Shika, those type of guys. You know what I mean? He also beat guys like Chris Eubank, but Chris Eubank was past his prime. He was washed up by the time Calzaghe fought him. You know what I mean? He had also fought guys like Charles Bro. He was a good super middleweight from the United States, but at that stage he was a little older, past the tooth. So was Richie Woodhall, a guy who was fighting at 160 pounds, a middleweight. You know what I mean? And like I said, man, Chad Dawson had a good amateur background. You know what I mean? You know, he had beat guys like Thomas Adamek. You know, I'd put Thomas Adamek over a lot of the fighters. Besides Roy Jones and B-Hop, Thomas Adamek is a tough dude. You know, these are guys, I believe he was a two-way champion, cruiserweight and light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? You know, Chad Dawson beat Antonio Tarver. You know what I'm saying? He beat Eric Harding, the first guy who beat Antonio Tarver. You know what I'm saying? So Chad Dawson was a much bigger guy too. You know, 6'3". I believe Calzaghe was maybe 6 feet. Chad Dawson, his reach was about, 76 and a half inches was his reach. Um, the reach of Calzaghe was about 70-inch reach. You know what I'm saying? But this was a great fight, man. A fight I really wanted to see. You know, basically there was two guys on the man's ass before he retired. Chad Dawson was on his ass, and so was Carl Froch. I'm not sure if I did a fights we didn't get to see about Carl Froch versus Calzaghe, you know what I mean? But Carl Froch was his mandatory. You know what I'm saying? It used to be, at least when he was at 168. I believe one of the first straps that Carl Froch ever won as a world champion was them vacated straps left by Joe Calzaghe when he went up from 168 to 175. You know what I mean? Okay, never forget, B-Hop put this guy on his ass. Yes, indeed, he sure did. And so did Roy Jones. Yeah, I mean, and these are older heads. What you think Chad Dawson gonna do to him, man? What do you think Chad Dawson gonna do to him, man? Let's talk about it, man. I'll give you a breakdown. Let me give you my prediction of what I think would have happened between bad Chad Dawson and Joe Calzaghe if the fight happened in around 2009. You know what I mean? Um, like I said, this dude is a volume puncher. You know what I mean? Joe Calzaghe, he's a volume puncher, and he's a guy that they say does a whole lot of slapping. You know what I'm saying? That's what he does. He's like a guy who likes to slap. Look, man, hey, I don't think you could become a undefeated fighter and pro boxing Hall of Fame if all you do is slap, man. I seen that straight left hand land flush on Roy Jones' face, and that looked like a closed fist. You know what I mean? That's neither here nor there. If he's throwing slapping shots, whatever he's throwing with his hand speed and the combinations and stuff, I don't think it would have been a problem for Chad Dawson, who was a very good counterpuncher. You know what I mean? And being from this at the southpaw stance, Chad Dawson, those are the advantages he has, being that he's also a southpaw, a skilled southpaw, a younger fighter than the man Joe Calzaghe, and at the end of the day, Joe Calzaghe, he never fought a guy like this, and if he's getting dropped by old heads like B-Hop and Roy Jones, I think this would be a fight where, dude would show his age, Calzaghe. And I see the man Chad Dawson using his reach, timing, keeping this dude at bay, waiting for him to make mistakes. When he's throwing all the massive, those numerous punches, as far as what do you call it? Punches in bunches. I believe that the man will counterpunch in between, and he's gonna catch the man, Joe Calzaghe, with some big power shots, big straight left hands down the pike, and it would be, I think, I think he would probably start bleeding. He probably will get cut sooner than later. Might hit the canvas, but this fight, in my opinion, wouldn't even go 6 rounds. I believe this would be one of them type of Kostya versus what's his name, Ricky Hatton type of fights. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I think. Chad Dawson, he can throw punches in bunches, combinations, you know what I mean? But he's a slick boxer, His defense is okay. His chin is decent, you know what I mean? But I think he has a variety of punches. And the straight left hands and also the right hook. I think the right hook is going to cut this guy above his Joe Calzaghe above his left eye. Um, and it's just gonna be bad, man. And I think Joe Calzaghe's pops, he gonna throw in the towel around round 6. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be one of those Manny Pacquiao type, Oscar De La Hoya type of fights. You know what I mean? Where, look, man, the younger guy who's on the rise, who was in his ascending. Look, we saw what the guy Chad Dawson did to B-Hop. He made actually B-Hop quit, pull a Robert Allen type move, what he did against Robert Allen, and he quit claiming that he had broke his shoulder or something. He ain't want no smoke with the young blood. You know what I'm saying? Chad Dawson's career mistake in his life was going down in weight to fight Andre Ward, who's an all-time great fighter. Chad Dawson is not an all-time great fighter. Calzaghe's one of the greatest UK fighters of all time. I'd probably put him in the top 2, top 3. Lennox Lewis being number 1, of course. But Chad Dawson will be patient with this guy, man. And he would punch in between them volume punches. All the volume punches that the dude would have thrown. Joe Calzaghe. Some of them may be pity pat shots. You know what I'm saying? I think Chad Dawson would just basically catch him and parry a lot of those shots on the glove with the gloves, and he would land his own combinations, you know what I mean? And I think he's gonna drop Calzaghe, probably is gonna cut him, and his pops is gonna stop the fight because at the end of the day it would be his 47th fight. And he's on his way out, you know what I mean? He would be basically on his way out like Kostya was thinking about when he fought Ricky Hatton, or Oscar De La Hoya when he sat on that stool when Manny Pacquiao blitzed his ass. You know what I mean? That fight versus Chad Dawson and Glenn Johnson was a close fight. But Chad Dawson was a mean dude, man, from Connecticut, man. I gotta give him his credit, man. My man Adonis Stevenson dispatched him, and he ruined his career for the rest of his career. But at the end of the day, ladies and gents, I believe Chad Dawson would win this fight. He would make dude retire on the stool, and I believe it will probably be a 6th or 7th round stoppage. And Joe Calzaghe would have no shame in his game. He tested himself against a young, hungry fighter in a weight class where Chad Dawson was the best in the world at that particular weight class in 2008 and 2009. And Calzaghe had been a perennial, fought at 168 his whole career up until he came up to 175 pounds to fuck with the man. Would fight Roy Jones and B-Hop, you know what I mean? But when you come up to a man, Chad Dawson's division, the other fighters there were guys like Bernard Hopkins, Glenn Johnson, Antonio Tarver, Joe Pascal. Chad Dawson beat all those guys, and those guys are in the top 5 of the light heavyweight division, So it would have been a good fight, but very one-sided, and like I said, would be no shame in Joe Calzaghe's game. I was a fan of his, and testing himself against a young, hungry fighter who's has a 10-year age advantage. It would be all bad. It would go all bad for the man. The Prince of Wales, or the Pride of Wales, the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe, and he would retire from his career with 46 wins and 1 loss. That 1 loss would be the Chad Dawson. And hey, ain't no shame in this game. Be March Boxer, leave your thoughts and comments. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Check out my playlist, y'all. Check out my playlist. I probably got over 40 fights that I've done or fights we didn't get to see. You know what I mean? There go my man Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. You know, Brownsville, Brooklyn. That was Chad Dawson's trainer. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, leave your thoughts and comments. Let me know how you guys think this fight will play out. But I got Chad Dawson, man, and I ain't even got to think about it too much. You know, I believe that's how it would have happened back when, in 2009. And my thoughts ain't changed in 2020, 2025. Be Marsh Boss, and I'm out of here. Gone.